Yeah, you heard it. All right. I'm positive. Okay, hang on a second, you guys. Looks like I have power issue here. What's up, you guys? Listen to that. You guys enjoy royalty free music. I got a good backstory behind this type of music. If you can hear me, I was a big fan of the musician, the composer, whatever you want to call him, Yanni, for a real long time. And I used to take road trips to Switzerland every weekend. It's only like 4 hours from my house. And we would go skiing every weekend. Now, I had my first car, like brand new finance car, and I would drive that thing until the damn wheels fell off. Cause for years I had been driving a Volkswagen van or a Volkswagen Bug in Germany and freezing my nuts off during the wintertime. So this music is it's royalty free music, but it's similar to the music that I listened to when I used to take road trips by this Yanni guy. And I became a typical Yanni fan. Yeah, you're like now I'm the sound of buses fan. Switzerland is so quiet and so clean that when you go there, you're just like astounded by how majestic the mountains are. First of all, and I typically went there during the wintertime because we skied every weekend. So Yanni was a big, like a very, very big star during the '90s. As far as that, the whole like mid that new age, I guess that's what was happening in the '90s. And I noticed this, so I'm going right into this whole spiel, if you will. Is that in the '90s there was a movement of people going to church, getting saved, learning about Christian music and all this stuff. So people were very into the type of church that was going on during the '90s because it was like going to a rock concert. Now, if any of you guys remember, okay, we went to the Gulf War in 1991. Okay, I went into the military in 1992. So immediately I was off to the war, and immediately when you go to basic training first, is they give you an option of going to either A, Catholic Church, B, Orthodox Church, or C, Gospel Church. So Gospel Church was the most popular one because during the '90s there was this big, you know, movement for pop sounding Christian music. And it was poppy because at the time, the alternative was, gangster rap and heavy metal. And so if you weren't into gangster rap or heavy metal, there really was no middle of the road as far as like Chris music goes because it sounds, old style. Nobody wanted to listen to hymns and sing hymns anymore, so they had to come up with like rock songs and stuff like that to attract the kids, which I thought was a brilliant idea. Okay, I learned practically all the songs on the guitar because they're all just like three chord wonders. Uh, G, C, D, an occasional A, E minor. So if you know all those chords, you could do every Christian song there is. And all you got to do is instead of saying baby and my love, all you got is just replace it with Jesus. And you have the formula for all Christian, gospel songs in chord progressions. So there is a formula that Marathon used. This is the reason why, you guys, I'm not in the ministry. You asked me why I'm not in the ministry. Okay, mm, I rejected all the rules. I rejected all the stupid shit that came with being a deacon, going and being, a youth pastor or a Sunday school teacher anymore. It's not the same anymore because we're not allowed to talk about sin. We're not allowed to do what the Bible says, which is so ironic because it used to be the other way around. And in the old days, that if you didn't believe in Jesus, if you didn't believe in God, you were an atheist. And if you knew that one person who said they were an atheist, they really weren't atheists at all. There are no atheists in a foxhole. So I got a lot of my Christian beliefs from the 90s. And it was basically really well packaged Christianity so that even the worst of sinners like myself and blah, blah, blah could, very easily integrate into the church again. I loved the church as far as like working with the kids, and I myself was part of youth group too. So I saw the benefits of a youth group early on as far as watching like self-esteem. And this is back in the day when there were no phones. So everything that we did, how we communicated was by regular telephone and by writing letters. And we wrote letters. We did mail order stuff. We used to send checks in the mail to buy products that we saw in magazines. And I got a CD. And I'm telling you guys this from the bottom of my heart that I believe that since the beginning of our existence, you know what I'm saying? The whole world could have started last Thursday. The whole world, the whole existence, dinosaurs and the whole flood thing and everything could have happened last Thursday. And that we have just been born. And that every single thing we've done has happened within the last 7 days. So, see what I'm saying? That's how quickly life changes. That's how quickly life comes and goes. And for myself, now I'm 51 years old. I've seen. It sucks to be me sometimes when I say this, as that if I was a time traveler, I don't know it, but I have the mind and this incredible spirit that's coming to me every day at this time every day. And so when it comes to me and I start talking to you guys about the things that, either I've dreamt about or I've been planning or I'm designing or comes to me in a flash of intuition, any ideas that come to me, I typically try to write them down whenever this thing comes because it comes in a flash. It comes like a flood of, they call it a stream of intelligence. All right. It's different than a stream of consciousness, which a stream of consciousness is somebody who talks too much. So, but a stream of intelligence is something that is outside of the person. Look at that. Kosher clinician, hard at it. What's up, brother? So, what was on my mind was we were kind of like everybody has been throwing Terrance under the bus. And if you guys don't know who I'm talking about, we're talking about the actor. Okay. And I'm only saying his first name because I don't want to do. I think that his algorithm is going to be throttled. They're either going to hide his stuff or they're going to push it forward. When they hide stuff, that means it's true. When they push stuff forward, it means it's false. So anytime they say something that is questionable or fact checkers say partial truth, it means there's some truth to it. If you have to lie to prove any of your theories true, then it's all invalid. So, and that goes for religion, that goes for a belief system. So I'm going to take the stance of, yes, I believe in God, but I've also died and have seen the other side. And now I've come back and I see the world is shit. So I'm not the only person here who has gone through something traumatic and has come back to life, but hasn't really experienced death. Unless they got in a car crash or something and they're in a coma and they come out of the coma and then we compare notes and they suddenly realize, oh shit. So that's why I have no more filter. I really don't concern myself if I'm offensive or not, because now that I know the end game, it's a little bit like we said that, what's his name? Baron Trump. Baron Trump was a character in a book that was called The Great Adventure, The Underground Tunnels of Baron Trump or something like that. So the story is that this kid, Baron Trump, he is a time traveler and he goes through a magical like time travel device and he has an advisor and he's called the Don. So it's all weird. It's like it's the name of Donald Trump's son, and the character in the book is named Don, and he lives in a mansion. And if any of you guys know, Donald Trump used to be my neighbor. So Mar-a-Lago is a very beautiful old piece of property. I lived there for a long time. I worked for all the rich people in Palm Beach. I've designed their houses. So any of you guys see me now painting in Mexico, and you knew what I did before, so it's like almost laughable for some of you guys. It's like comical. Why are you in Mexico if you're such a big shot designer? I'm not. I used to work for this rock star of an architect, and he was an archaeologist, which is why I got training in archaeology without going to college. And he taught me how to read sedimentary rock. So, and this dude's in fucking Florida, and he's from the up north or some shit. So he taught me about ancient architecture versus newer architecture. So when I have given you guys you guys saw the thumbnail, and you know that I'm a lot older than I say that I am, because I'm 51 years old in this body. But I had a test done. And this is fucking weird, you guys. So fucking weird. I had a test done that's called a DEXA scan. And if you haven't had a DEXA scan done, all you need to do is go to a dietitian. You stand on this scale thingy and you hold these electrodes in your hands. And it gives you your body fat and your composition of your whole body. Like this arm might have like, it's like, how much body fat is in this arm? It's like 10%. And this leg, it's like 12. And how much water content. So it can detect every single thing in your body when you're taking this DEXA scan. It says how fat you are and how thin you are and how much muscle you got and how ripped you are. At the end of the test, you know what the lady said to me? She says, "Well, do you want to know what your internal age is?" And I'm like, "Fuck yeah, tell me how old I am." Because I had been hearing about these tests to tell people how old they are internally and how long they're going to live. And I want to have that other test, which is a metabolite exam. It's a DNA test where they test your ability to metabolize all nutrients across the board, but it also says what diseases you're susceptible to genetically so that you can beat all diseases in advance. Dana White had his done. He had 10 years to fucking live. When the nutritionist did my test, okay, I was at my thinnest. I just lost the last of the 60 pounds, having been in the forest for 8 months on that survival trip where I lost all that weight, living off fucking nothing. Don't do that. I don't give a shit what anybody says, you guys. And to all the people who fucking put me up to it, they're like, you could do that. You could go. Don't do it. I almost died the last 45 fucking days. So don't do the survival thing. I thought it'd be cool to go off grid for, as long as possible and not have water and shit. Dumb idea. Don't do it. Who the fuck knows? I'm probably dead out there somewhere still. But anyway, what was I talking about? My internal age is 12 years old. 12 fucking years old. And I was like, how is that possible? They said, well, it's partially because you've been in shape all your life. You've been bodybuilding for all these years. And I'm thinking to myself, all the damage I did to myself, lifting weights and being that big for so long and abusing steroids for so long that I figured I would have just destroyed my internal age or whatever. But because I lost all that weight, like all the weight, I lost all my fat. If you guys looked at me, like if you saw me as of late, I'm filling out again because we're doing this shit. But all my body, like all my size on my skin was, it's like 2 centimeters of fucking skin, of loose skin on my body. So even though I had muscles underneath all that skin, all my skin was fucking flappy. And I'm looking in the mirror. I'm like, dude, I'm not doing this shit. I'm not doing it because I have been 225 and be 10%, walk around like that all year, and I look great. Now I'm under 10%, and now I'm 60 pounds lighter. I'm starting at square one now, doing more than just CrossFit, because I don't know if I told you guys this, but I fucked both of my knees up. I had two broken bones in my foot. I had a two vertebrae that were compacted or they're compacted. I don't know. So I had all these fucking problems. I couldn't turn my head to the left. I could barely walk on one foot. I was in Mexico, and Mexico, my dogs are like dragging me down the street. So I'm like, I got to go to jiu-jitsu class, and then I just couldn't take it anymore. I went to the doctor. She goes, "Yeah, you have two broken bones in your foot." So this is after being off of steroids for a while at this point, and I'm doing jiu-jitsu without steroids, and I'm losing weight because doing jiu-jitsu is all cardio, there's no muscle involved. So I'm losing size by the day. I'm starting to feel all my muscles are getting smaller and smaller. I'm not as strong. I start to lose, like the volume in on my fucking arms, which were my best parts. And people started to look at me like something fucking wrong with me. Like, you okay, man? You look like you're sick or something. So after I lost all that weight, I looked like I was a chemo patient. And so when I got off of steroids and I went natural for like 3 years now, it was like hard because every time you can't fight the way you used to. You get hurt now. I'm getting all bruised up. So being natural and being this old is fucking reversal. But the doctor's sitting there telling me that I have an eternal age of 12 years old. So this shit just blew my mind. So if you do go see a nutritionist, have her do an internal scan on you. A DEXA scan is what it's called. They test your body fat, your muscles. It tells you how much actual muscle you have in your body. I'm sorry I'm having to do this like this, you guys, because I have to charge this thing while we're talking about this topic. So the first part of the the music that came on was from, it's a royalty free piano player, but he plays like Yanni, and Yanni was one of my favorite piano players from the 90s. And we used to drive to Switzerland. I was working on Ramstein Air Base, and so we would drive because it's like 3 hours. So I would drive to Switzerland. We would go to Interlaken. We would go to Grindelwald and Lauterbrunnen. We would go skiing every weekend, and then drive back because I was 3 days on, 3 days off. I worked 12-hour shifts, and I worked at night. So literally during the day, I would sleep, I would go to the gym, I would go get a tan, go eat, then go back home and go to bed for a while, and then go to work for 12 hours, and then do that for 3 days because, the shifts at the plant, the water plant, is that when there was like fires or something like that, we were having to like run the plant like all the time, the water plant. Or if one of the hangers had tripped one of the sprinkler systems, the fucking water would just go. You guys don't have any idea what I'm talking about. Okay, so I've been in the water treatment and water business since I was a little boy. Okay, my granddad was an environmentalist, and I was the youngest registered lobbyist for the Florida Wildlife Federation. So I was into the environment, but not like these wacko environmentalists are. So while I'm doing these projects for the Florida Wildlife Federation as a kid, I'm also reporting to Tallahassee as a kid, going actually and meeting the governor of Florida, dressing up in a suit and everything, and going and hobnobbing with people about stuff that I physically saw. And at the time, it was the Everglades. So what I was watching as a little boy was watching Florida, the swamplands of Florida, become occupied and become drained. During the time that they were draining all of the Everglades, and this is Disney, this is down south in the Florida Everglades, Alligator Alley, all that stuff, when they were rerouting all this for the sugarcane industry, my grandfather took me to some ancient Indian mounds. He took me to some walls that were buried underground that had during a hurricane had all of the bushes had blown away, and underneath was all these relics. and they were walls that were 90 degrees. They're all 90-degree walls made out of stone, and the ingredients of the cement wasn't like normal cement. You'd mix up some sand and some rocks and all stuff, but it was actually made out of shell rock. Shell rock is limestone. In Florida, shell rock is used as like a base 32 or something that's used under some concrete or asphalt roads. So this is something that, if you guys didn't know, uh, at, shell rock is an ancient form of sea life that mixed in with limestone during a cataclysm, and it hardens up, and you could quarry the shit, and you could limestone's enormous and it's heavy. You could build stuff out of it. They use it for the roads in Florida. So during that time, I'm looking at these little shells that are inside of this ancient limestone, and I'm beginning to see like patterns of animals. So I become more and more interested in architecture and archaeology because of with my grandfather and going to to Florida Wildlife Federation and so on. And as I got older and began to be around environmentalists that were like real environmentalists, not these like pretend blue-haired lunatics that spike trees and stuff, but real environmentalists that talked about a time in the world that was before this world, and that the world may have been turned on its side or perhaps upside down, so that the bottom is the top and the top is the bottom, and we had some kind of a pole shift happen. And hence the reason why we've had massive floods, and over the years we've had a very large gap in the history of mankind because there was no communication. You and I are so used to being able to communicate instantly. Like, you're over there in Texas, and I think you're in, where is that, Arlington? So that's over there, and then this guy, he's in Amsterdam, or if that's what your VPN says anyway. So that's why I say, okay, this world has been flooded several times. We've been reset several times. We're so accustomed to having instant communication that during the 1800s, there was no communication. People got everything by letter and by, horse and wagon and buggy. But yet, in the United States, there are these enormous palaces that have millions and millions of bricks in towns in Utah, in towns in Los Angeles, and all over San Francisco that mirror those in Italy, like Roman roads underneath the roads. And what they've done is paved over everything. Why? Like, wouldn't you want to know that there was a history before our history? Why is it that every other country has pyramids except us? Why is it that, before 1492, there was just a handful of Indians living there? What a bunch of horse shit. What a lying fucking bunch of sacks of shit. Because if we had known our history, we would have known that there were palaces that were in the United States prior to our existence there, that everything has been built on top of, including the Statue of Liberty. There are hidden star forts everywhere. If you want to see it, you don't believe me, you don't have to. Go on Google Maps, type in star forts, and you'll see the maps of all the star forts that are all over the US. There might even be a star fort literally in your town, and you probably driven past it 100 times and never even knew that it's a structure that was here before 1492. So if all of you who are super, super enthusiastic about tracing your history back to the indigenous people of the United States, well, I got good news for you. The United States was inhabited prior to 1492 by Irish people, by Phoenicians, by sea traveling people that built civilizations all the way down to Mexico. And there was a doctor who had studied down there. He had studied the Aztecs. So the Aztecs was the empire that came after the Mayas. Okay, the Mayas, the older civilization, and then there was an older civilization of black people that were the Olmecas, the Olmecs, and they have the giant heads. I'm sure you've seen it in the Yucatan. So you could see there are different like species of humans, not species, but different types of humans all over Mexico that represented at other countries. So that even Egyptians, they have DNA tested and found Egyptian DNA. They found red-haired, green, I don't know, so red-haired Scottish people, and they found them in the Moab Desert that were dated to be over fucking 800 years old. So there's something to this. There's a reason why they've hidden it. There's a reason why they've covered up just the United States. Does it make any sense for like all these mega civilizations to be in Panama, hidden under the jungle, which by the way we discovered in 2013? And then recently with LiDAR, we're able to not we shit. I didn't do nothing. Um, People who operate LiDAR and do historical stuff discovered these civilizations that were there when the Spanish came through, passed through, and then 100 years later, people went there. There's nothing here. I don't see shit. That guy was lying. Well, no, he wasn't lying. It was actually 100 years where the jungle had taken over when the Spanish came through and gave everybody smallpox and they died. So the remnants of the people that we encounter in the US that were indigenous were basically the cavemen. They were the remnants of the last civilizations that had survived the cataclysm. You and I are remnants of people who survived the cataclysm. And just like every cycle of civilization goes through where it goes through a peak of childbirth and so on, and now we're on the decline, we're probably not going to replace ourselves. But it's okay because this is kind of God's way of cycling through people. And it sounds cruel, but sometimes I think that this is a game. This is all a game. And we have some interesting player one, whatever the hell this is. And now we're doing whatever it is that the player one wants us to do. But it's a different world than we're used to. You and I are used to an analog world. You and I are used to a world, excuse me, where dad charged the battery in the garage using, a battery charger that you plugged into the wall and it hummed. And it had a meter that went like this, an analog voltage meter. Do you remember those days? Okay. Did you live in a world where you knew what a trolling motor was? If you lived in a world where you knew what a trolling motor was, you'll know that it's a tiny little motor that goes on like on a John boat. And if you're by yourself in a little pond, you could cruise along and it's fun and you can, fish. The velocity is very, very slow. It's kind of the equivalent of riding a golf cart, but it works. So I wanted to know the future of cars. So here's my prediction. The future of cars is we're going to be driving golf carts. That's what they're going to have us doing because they know that they can create a miniature sustainable situation, an experiment where people are given unlimited funds, unlimited food, unlimited leisure time, and they're distracted 24 hours a day. Sounds great already, right? There'll be people in charge of maintenance. There'll be people in charge of security. But for the most part, security will take care of itself because that's usually what they do. When you have a nice place, which is why I think partially is that people fail to realize that gentrification is a good thing and a bad thing. It is a good thing because when you gentrify something, you just clean it up. But in exchange for that, you lose your freedom of security. You lose your freedom in exchange for security. So what has happened in Europe right now, if anybody wants to chime in, will tell you that with the the immigrants have come from everywhere to Europe, have taken over. They don't give a shit, and in some ways, I don't blame them. If my country was oppressed by France and I didn't like French people, I would say everything possible. I don't like French people because X, Y, Z, and they oppressed our country and they took all our gold. Okay, well that's all fine and good. That had nothing to do with me. So does that give you the right to come into my country? And because my country stole all your bananas and all your cacao and all your gold, does that now give you the right to come in to the land of the free, the melting pot of the world, and to repopulate because they created a system that fucks men up, makes us look like idiots, so that we're not attracted to women. Now it's just a game. And I told you guys this psychological game is like, especially for friends of mine, that my friends that don't look like me say that their women who look like them reject men out of sport. They have a hive mentality that says no matter what they say to us, we have to reject them and tell them they're not worth anything because they don't have XYZ of expected value. Do you understand what I'm saying? So, and anybody who knows me knows who I grew up with, and I'm cool with that. I'm okay with being, growing up poor. I don't have a problem with telling people that I grew up without money. I'm okay with that. As a matter of fact, I would still be I'm still the same as person. And I hit the jackpot probably 5 times in my lifetime. And I will tell you this, a couple of those times have been based on looks, not based on performance, not based on education. So while I say that, yes, there's a big disparaging difference between how my friends are treated and the way that I'm treated. Now, if I was to round up the best firefighters from all the fire stations here in Mexico, take them up to the United States, to any fire station anywhere in the whole country, plop them down in there. These guys are the best there is. There would still be some criticisms. And not because these people are any less or any better, but rather our perception of other people based on a narrative that we've been fed that Mexicans are XYZ, that they're somehow better, we're somehow better than them because they do the labor for us in the United States. So to say that, oh, yes, there are professionals in Mexico, is to take it a step further and to say that Americans' perception of Mexico is so bad that I actually have to remind people, yes, we do have iPhones and Wi-Fi. So it's not a primitive, like you all see just the shittiest parts of Juarez or wherever, and you see like all spray painted up buildings and how shitty it looks. Then you come over here and you're like, that can't possibly be Mexico. Golf course, beautiful malls, people renting Tesla taxis. So whatever. Yeah, we have electric bicycles too, and you can rent them by the hour, blah, 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 blah. So that's why I say that the whole idea that nothing was in the United States before 1492 besides Indians, and then you discover this huge thing in wherever it is in Utah, that huge palace they had. They say it was supposedly built in 18 something, and then it was burned. So you'll find that every smoking gun in every town has a palace that was burned. All of San Francisco were palaces. And right next to these palaces, we had shacks, like log cabins. And you would see these palaces, and you're like, oh, okay. So with a population of 500 people, 1,000,000 bricks were put into this palace in 1843. No, 1863. Because remember, the gold rush was in 1849. Supposedly, there's nobody out here in California except Indians and gold holes or caves, right? Bullshit, dude. Why in you? Why do you think we would create a slave narrative? Why in the world would you create a slave narrative? Well, A, because the people who had the United States before this cataclysm had gold. They had palaces. They had amphitheaters. It was just like the Romans. And who were those people? Were they indigenous? Were they black? Were they both? Were they Irish? Were they Phoenicians? There's evidence of everybody. But everyone looks at Indians and say that the Indians did the burial mounds that are shaped like a snake. Maybe. They might have buried shit on top of it. Every single thing you see around it that's megalithic has been inherited. Even my own house, they say it was founded in 1810. Okay, well, 1810. Listen to this. 1810. When was electricity invented? So Thomas Edison. What year was that? Okay, 1860 what? All right, so if he invented the light bulb, because it wasn't electricity that was invented, it was a type of a light bulb, which, by the way, were other light bulbs that were already invented before him. He was just trying to figure out how the fuck they did it. So he didn't invent shit. Every single new invention that was plopped in our fucking laps in 1860 were all discoveries that had been found and distributed, and a name and an image put on top of it. None of this stuff is new. Every single thing, robots, electric cars, is all before the 1800s. Every single thing, trains, ancient trains, dirigibles, blimps, all before the 1800s. And all of that has been deleted from history. So, why was there only Indians in the whole United States? Here's another one for you. What about underneath all the palaces and churches, and why are there catacombs of tens of thousands of dead people with their bones stacked to the ceiling? We didn't have cemeteries back then? Well, the reason is because when they found all these palaces and so on, they were buried in mud. So they had to clean up and dig these all out. Even this town that I'm in right now, is a star fort. This town was dug out in the 1900s, not the 1800s, not the 1700s. It was inhabited by the indigenous that are the survivors of the cataclysm. They didn't build these palaces. They did not build 500 indigenous people did not build these 17 palaces and churches that are here that have over 1,000,000 bricks each. And what are they? Master architects? Master stone people? Really? These things were all inherited because when you find something like this, they dig it up, they find all these dead bodies. Well, underneath these structures were these huge catacombs. Huge catacombs. Spaces underneath, basically caves underneath, and they had all this space, so they had to put these bodies somewhere. So they filled up the catacombs with skulls, and they put all these bones in there. Those bones have dated back to all 800 BC. So France, Italy, Spain, all of them. Now, if there's anybody that's here that has boots on the ground in France that could verify, yes, there are catacombs and tunnels under France, all over France, not just in Paris. I used to live right across from Alsace, which is the region. It's a wine region. It's right across from Saarbrücken. Kaiserslautern is about 45 miles to the north, and then if you go another hour is Frankfurt. Frankfurt's to the north of there. So I left there. Let's see, says 2002. 2002. Got sober 2002, so I left there in 2002. Yeah, they were tired of looking at me. Got there in 1994. So I got there in 94. The Berlin Wall was 89. So just after that, it was 92. I went to the war. And then after I came back from the war, there was a guy who was a roommate of mine when I was in the dorms who got a guaranteed assignment to go to Germany. His name was Eric Benson. Eric Benson was a kid that grew up in Fort Lauderdale with my stepbrother. His name is David. And both of them are cut from the same cloth because one became a heroin addict and the other one was a Wiccan who decided he wanted to go to the head shops and hang out with losers while he was a slick sleeve in the Air Force. He got busted down, lost a fucking rank. Then he got gonorrhea from his satanic girlfriend. And before you know it, he's asking me for a referral letter. So I wrote the shittiest thing you could fucking write about somebody. Eric is a fucking blah, blah, blah. And he's a troublemaker. He's a saboteur. He doesn't want anything good for anybody. And all he does is complain about other people. Him getting caught smoking weed when you're not supposed to is typical of Eric because Eric just doesn't give a shit about anybody. He holds no standards. He has no values. And the girls who goes out with has no boundaries. She apparently has fucked every single dude in the dorms, then turns around and gives Eric gonorrhea. So goodbye. Go back to fucking Fort Lauderdale where you came from. Then the other one, I love this because when you and I talk about being a simp, bro, my stepbrother married a fucking crack whore. She was pretty too, and actually had 2 kids with her. Shitty diapers, drugs everywhere, needles. I think their kids were taken away by the state. She's out tricking. He's doing heroin. None of them had jobs. They're eating Xanax and, you know what I mean? Just when you see them, just like wild fucking animals. So you wonder why I don't want to be around that. I'm just not that. And I know that sounds, very selfish. You don't want to be in, helpful people in your family. No. Why the fuck should I? All they do is just use and abuse. They hope for the fucking worst for anybody. It is like a lot like Mexican families do because they don't want you to go anywhere. They don't want you to do anything. They don't want you to become anything. Oh, you went to college, huh? Got your master's degree. Yeah, you got your master's degree? Huh? You got your new job and working in aeropuerto. He's got a job working in aeropuerto. Mija, he got a aeropuerto. And I love how, who is it? George, what's his nuts? He's like, yeah, he's like my aunt. He's like, they don't want you to be better. They want you to be fucked up. They want you to stay the same. They're like, oh, he got a job? He got a job? Oh, wow. Where are you working? Oh, he's working there? It's like, hello? Do you know he's smoking on marijuana? And that's what I say. They sabotage all their own people. So they don't want you doing anything better. I've seen guys that literally have been persistent no matter what. Their parents, see, a lot of people's parents are a piece of shit. We've always admired these parents, thinking there'd be some great wisdom or something coming from them, and it's just shit. People are stupid as a motherfucker. People are dumb. I mean, I'm astonished at how ignorant people are. And it's not even like I'm not going to blame the parents. Yeah, I'm going to blame the parents. I'm also going to blame the teachers and the system that you and I probably grew up in. because it's a system made by the Prussian army that was sold to the Rockefellers and packaged to the US. In fact, all of the textbooks, if you could get anything I think that's prior to 1947, send it to me. I'll buy them. I'll buy every book that's from 1947 and prior because it's got some old world wisdom in it. Some of them do. And, I'm teaching kids down here in Mexico, and their books are just as shitty. If I didn't have books like history books that had like legends, we wouldn't have any history down here because no one had any communication in between the years of 15 whatever and 1890s because the whole country was abandoned. This is what I'm saying. If you go to Benito Juarez right now, you could go into a palace. From the outside, it just looks like a typical old building. When you go inside, you see the old world, and it was all buried in mud. The lines of mud are on the walls. They're up 3 or 4 stories. So a lot of these buildings were buried and they dug them all out. I'm not even kidding when I tell you that whole sections of Mexico with buildings that people live in today, like apartments and so on, that have been renovated, were all buried in mud. I think it was like 45 years that section of Mexico was actually buried in mud and abandoned. And it was over 100 years before it was even inhabited by anybody. No one knew who the owners were. So what people did was literally just go in and squat and take over and say, yeah, this is my house. It's mine. It's my house. This house was probably over 800 years old and was here prior to the Aztecs. So all this horse shit about them living in fucking teepees and living in caves. No, no, no. Sorry, guys. I don't think you guys understand that there was a civilization that was here prior to mud hut people. Okay. It was far more advanced than we are. And everything that you're seeing is an adaptation of the Aztecs taking over the Mayas had. You're taking over where the Mayas had taken over the Olmecs. And the Olmecs had taken it for who the fuck knows when, because they can't even date that shit. Now they're discovering stuff that's over 12,800 years old that happened before the Younger Dryas situation, where the meteorite, the asteroid that hit the Gulf of Mexico, which basically caused the end of the dinosaurs anyway. All of that is evident here, right here where I am. You can actually go drive to the spot, look straight down to a 400-foot cliff, and you'll see the different areas of sedimentation. Now, if you knew how to measure, I think everyone has seen people, measure sedimentary rock and look at the different layers and so on. And there is one specific layer that is very clear that goes as far as you can see all the way around these canyons if they're at the same elevation. That was when this impact took place with an asteroid, and that power of that explosion basically vitrified or turned into glass all of the ground in that particular area for hundreds and hundreds of miles, probably thousands of miles. And now when you dig down, you can see it. Now when you go to these canyons here, you can actually see where it happened. And if you could measure the time when it happened, you could figure out when it happened. See, now you could tell when you drive down the highway here in Mexico, if you've seen a pyramid, you can't unsee it. So when you go to Querétaro, which is like 45 minutes from here, there is a pyramid there where a dude bought this property because he thought he was buying a piece of property on a hill. He built his house on top of the hill. Turns out there's a pyramid underneath of it. So you understand the 33rd parallel? Do you understand that there is a line at the 30th parallel, that goes through the entire Earth? The 30th parallel lines up one set of pyramids that go from all the way from here in Mexico, all the way through, and somehow intersect with the pyramids of Giza. So all of them are in line. So if you wanted to figure out where the other pyramids were buried, you would just figure out, okay, well, here's the pyramids of Giza, and there's the pyramids of Mexico. So in between there has got to be some more hidden pyramids somewhere. And that's how you find your fucking pyramids. All you have to do is find a couple of them that are far away, scan the area, look at the hills. They're on average. And just so you guys know, I'm not trying to downplay this or sound like I'm some fucking expert on archaeology, but the average pyramid, probably all the pyramids I've seen have been exactly about 400 feet tall. So if you want to see if one of the hills close to you, it looks like it might be a pyramid, they're almost always about 400 feet tall. I've seen pyramids that are like next to each other. No one knew they were there. So now they know they're there. And if we could just get some more if we could just get some more LiDAR people out here, more drone people, we could spend all day, every day, uncovering more pyramids here in Mexico. I'm serious. That's how easy it would be for you and my team to go get in the car. It's a very nice car, by the way, or in the chicken bus, and go and scan what we think are pyramids, and then go and process it and figure shit out. Once we've located all these pyramids, we then go and get credit for the location of these pyramids, every single one of them. So, as a team with LiDAR and drones, literally just going down one highway, you and I could discover probably 40 or 50 pyramids just going down one highway here, because no one knows the stuff is here and no one has an eye for it because they see it every day. And once you have seen it, you cannot unsee it. Like I said, that guy's pyramid, it is his pyramid because he bought the land. But according to the whatever national history group or whatever, they're the authorities over these things. And I just so you guys know, I would never ordinarily, voluntarily call the Smithsonian and say, hey, I want you guys to certify my castle because I need it to be part of the national history, because it was owned by the group of people known as the Villetes, or whatever, whoever Pancho Villa's revolutionaries were, owned my house. So I feel pretty safe. I don't feel safe because the walls are 20 feet tall. I feel safe because there's spooky ghosts around it from revolutionaries, pretty badass dudes. No, I have not gone down in the tunnels. And the reason why is because somebody fucking blew up one of the tunnels with dynamite and it fucked up one of my walls. So I have a wall that it's a 90-degree angle like this that has the arc on it, and the arc and the front face of the wall are now pulled away. So my fucking arc is falling down because this dickhead decided to blow fucking dynamite up in one of the tunnels that's connected to my tunnels. So he flooded the fucking tunnels with water. So now they're using the tunnels to store water, fuckheads. Silver mines, there's silver mines there. We can all explore it. So all we'd have to do is have one full day, and then within maybe a 10-mile radius, we could go to 2 or 3 different mines. And you just have to have a helmet. You just have to have a light. If you want to break rocks, bring a hammer. It's that easy. I don't care because I'm not into mining and stuff. So I'm into archaeology. If I find gold on the way, whoop-de-fucking-do. It's just gold. Big deal. If you find gold, we'll split it 50-50. Great? Good. I just want to be able to see it. I just want to be able to take a picture of it and say, hey, yeah, we found this gold coin. And then we can figure out when the damn things were minted, because if you find old gold, it's not going to have Spanish markings on it. It's going to have something else on it. Why? I don't understand that. Why? Well, because basically they were just here intercepting the gold. They weren't here to stay. They came here because they had orders to come and map shit out so that they could do the largest extraction of gold from the US, from South America, the US especially, because that was a big gold cover up. Any of the big countries where, I mean, every country has filthy rich families. Those families had old money. Old money comes from old gold. Old gold comes from old mansions, old palaces from these old world countries that were destroyed by the floods. Those buildings were uncovered. They were painted over, plastered up, and said, "Yeah, we built this." And amazingly, they were built in under a year. Yeah, my ass, my ass. That's what the Germans said. The Germans said, "I learn you how it works, this shit, little cowboy. I learn you." The Italians taught me too. The Italians taught me well. The Italians took me under their wing. This is in Germany, by the way. And I used to go to this ice cream shop. And the guy who owned it was the cousin of Giuseppe. You guys know Giuseppe, famous singer now. So Giuseppe, Giacomo, Bruno, Tito, and Mike. And there was Mike at the end. And Mike was the English speaker of the group. So he always told me, he goes, I mean, I tell you something. Let me tell you something. My daughter, the most beautiful girl in the world, make for you. Hey, perfect wife. And I'm like, oh, thank you. They love me so much. Every time that I would come in, they would do this beautiful like. And I'm a young guy too. I was only 20 something years old, but I was this big fucking bodybuilder, and I always wore like in the summertime in Germany, it's never much sun. So when you get sun, the thing to do in the 90s was to wear these string top muscle shirts and the gayest looking cut off jeans. Yes, cut off fucking jeans like a girl, like Daisy Dukes. Dude, you go around Germany in the 90s. I don't know what it's like now, but in the 90s, 2000s, if you went to a German construction site on an Air Force base anywhere in the world, you will see dudes wearing cut off jeans. Not just any cut off jeans, like fucked up jeans they just cut off. No, jeans that are like Daisy fucking Dukes in Germany by the biggest, buffest dudes on the fucking thing, and everybody's wearing them. And I'm talking about like cut off motherfucking jeans that, you know what I'm saying, they had the pockets hanging out of the fucking bottom, like the 70s, like you'd see these hoes wearing to the beach. Or you'd see them with a tramp stamp on the back. That is the shorts German men are wearing on construction sites right now. Yeah, sounds gay, but that's what it was like. The 1990s, they had a fluorescent clothing thing too. Do you remember in the 80s where in the 80s the neon clothes were the thing, the green neon, pink neon, orange neon? That was the thing. Jelly shoes. Tell me you guys had girls who wore jelly shoes when you were right around 1985, I believe it was. 1985 was when Michael Jackson was at the peak with Thriller. All of us were breakdancing. That's if you went to black school. If you didn't go to black school, you probably heard about people breakdancing. Legit, if you went to a black school, you learned how to breakdance. And if you in 1985, so that means that if you were my age, you were probably in the third, fourth, fifth grade. So you were just learning how to be a person by then. And if breakdancing, see, dancing has always been a thing in the black community. And when you go to black school and you have black friends, you usually do what black kids do, especially if you come from a family who doesn't dance, because they say that white people can't dance. Well, if you add Balkan people, you would say no, everybody except for Eastern European people. See, you guys understand that we do different dances than typical white people in the United States doing that little bullshit. We actually jump and have springing dancing that we do on our knees and stuff like that. So it's a very athletic dance. So you can't say that we can't dance because that's some bullshit. Because we inspired basically all the Arabic dancing, everything on the Eastern. Even the Russians dance like us. So yeah, we have that in common. We dance too. So anybody knows me knows I know how to dance. I know how to salsa dance. I know how to merengue dance, which any idiot could merengue dance with the right music. But I actually learned how to salsa dance in Puerto Rico, in the Dominican. I learned how to do bachata. So yeah, I've been around the world and I been learning how to do shit. I don't just go and fuck all a bunch of women and just, leave all them children behind. I don't do that. Is that what you think of me? Is that what you think I do? Go all these countries and just take the prettiest girls that I could possibly find and then shag them fucking rotten? Is that what you think? You think I meet the prettiest girls all over the world and then just work them down to a nub and go out with them and have a good time and eat and do all kinds of fun shit? What do you think of me? Jeez, oh peas. That's not even fair. That's not even fair to me because see what I'm saying? If you knew me like that, yeah, if you knew me like that, you'd say, "Oh yeah, well, everybody who knows me knows I'm legit. I don't have to brag about my car. The car, whoa, whoa, but that's more fun." See what I'm saying? You can have cars all day, but do you build your own bus? Did you build your bus? I built mine. Now I just need to put a front bumper and then go vroom on my way to fucking nowhere. Oh, by the way, this is the fire academy. This is not my actual house. I don't live here. We have armed guards, and we have zoom cameras everywhere. Oh my fucking! I got to teach class today. I got to go do aerobics or yoga or CrossFit shit at 10 o'clock Mexico time. I think I probably should start recording the class so I could teach. Well, you know what? No, not while it's raining. It's been raining and we had a tropical storm here, so it's no. We're probably gonna go inside the classroom. I'm gonna teach judo to a bunch of old guys so they don't break their fucking hips when they get thrown to the ground. Right on. Okay, let me just check my notes because I wanted to read some shit to you guys that comes up every single day. I get another discovery. We get another archaeological discovery every fucking day. Another new discovery. It's to the point now. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'll take it. So archaeologists discover. Oh fuck! I missed it. Um, remember you remember the story about the Minotaur? And he had this maze. He had like the myth of this maze. Well, they found the maze. Yeah, they found the maze in Crete. Hmm. The treasure hunters down in Florida. Did you guys hear about this? They found 300-year-old shipwrecks. They found a fleet of ships leaving Florida. Let me ask you something. How many fucking gold mines do you know of in Florida? I'll wait. I'll wait. Because the last time I checked, there were no gold mines in Florida. That tells me that the gold was transported by land from the north. East Coast gold mines and the East Coast. Yes, Georgia has some. Yes, they have them everywhere, sure. But who's mining the fucking gold? The Spanish? The Taino Indians in Puerto Rico? Yes, they did. They used the Taino Indians to load gold. They did not use the Taino Indians to mine gold. See, this is where everything is wrong. This is where we think, oh, they used the slaves to mine gold. No, 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 no. They used whoever to load gold onto the ships. They loaded the gold. They loaded the ships so full of gold. That's why there's so many, sunken ships. Not because they had hurricanes. These dipships filled these fucking wooden boats with metric tons of gold that were from the old world. Because you were finding treasure chests full of fucking rubies and stuff in South America. Emeralds, the size of your hand, the chains that I've seen it with my own two eyes. I've met the guys who find these fucking things. I've actually been to the one guy's restaurant that has a Greek seafood restaurant and a picture of him on the wall when he found that big ass that shipwreck. So as of late, the 300 shipwrecks that were found off the coast of Florida are said to contain something to the tune of something $30 billion in gold coins and bullion chains, everything. Where do these items come from? Think about this, fellas. These are Spanish ships full of Spanish gold, full of Spanish stuff like crowns and Spanish coins coming from South America. Does that make any sense? Does it make any sense at all for there to be stuff that they make out of gold in Spain found in sunken Spanish galleons? Spanish jewelry for women? How many women were they making jewelry for in South America or in Mexico? Spanish style. But they're finding it at the bottom of the ocean. Who made these chains with emeralds this big in them? Who made the rings? Who are the rings for? The indigenous people? So you follow what I'm saying here is that this old world goes back to a fucking time that we are not aware of because there was no communication between then and now. We think we're here in the most modern part of the world. We're cavemen. We're dumbasses. We can't even replicate the cement used in my house, founded in 1810. They say that it has quicklime in it. It says it has silica in it. It says it has ground up dried cactus roots in it, apparently. What else? Seawater. 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 So if there was seawater in the mixture of in these mixtures of cement, where did fucking seawater come from? Did they like bring it in with a horse and buggy from the fucking ocean? Did they bring it in by did they have horse and buggies with like barrels on the back with where they could carry tens of thousands of liters of seawater of all things, seawater to make cement out of to build the houses out here, right? Yeah. That's why when they blew up the dynamite under the ground in the tunnels under my house, yeah, it wrecked the fucking wall, but any normal wall anywhere within that radius of the blast or whatever the fuck they did down there to blow those walls up, and it wrecked one of the walls in my house. And you know what? It's not even my house. It's connected to the archways. One side's my house, and then the other side is the other owners. So there's 4 owners to the castle. I own one corner, they own the other 3. So my archway is actually fine up to the middle, and then his side, the fucking wall's about to fall down. And if his wall falls down, then the archway is going to fall down. It's going to fuck my wall up. So I actually have a real serious like structural problem right now. And it's you know what I mean. But when we got the castle, it was covered in jungle, so it ain't like we could have seen it. We should have picked better. Fuck you, right? I don't know how many castles you bought lately, but this would be my second. Jeez. The first we basically inherited. We inherited from the old world. The whole world basically at this point. Yeah. So where are they now? They usually put parks on top of them. They bury them. They put mounds on top of them. They put trees on top of them because if they put trees on top of them, no one's going to go digging down there doing an archaeological dig to find stuff that they could prove that the world was actually here longer than they say, thus disproving a lot of things. And I think it has a lot to do with the church. Like they did not want Copernicus, telling people that the earth was fucking round, right? They didn't want anybody knowing that the earth was round because it would go against what the Bible says about blah blah blah, and it doesn't matter any. It doesn't even matter anymore, right? Because we already know that God's real. We already know that a lot of this stuff happened. Now they're trying to make it sound like the Bible is fake and that these things didn't actually happen. And I'm like, aha. See, now they're trying to make it sound like it's not real. Now I know the shit's real. Because if they go in and try and say, if I go on Instagram and type in or whatever and say, Christ died for my sins and was risen from the dead 3 days later, and then it get flagged for misinformation, you know that shit's true. So whether or not it's true or not, I wasn't there. I'm willing to take that risk. I'm willing to take that risk. I'm willing to take the risk that it's true. So anyway, I got to go make those eggs and go get those gains today, guys. So I hope you've enjoyed this as much as I have. I appreciate you talking up so much. Hit that like button. I'm the professor, and I'm out again.